Selamat pagi. A very good morning, boys and girls. During my time, zaman saya sebagai seorang pelajar dekat sini, Encik Fernandez, David Fernandez, semasa beliau adakan assembly di pagi-pagi, the first thing he would say is, "Good morning, boys and girls." So those were the days, yeah. Now, I'm very, very privileged to be back here today. After leaving this great institution for more than 33 years. Now you realize that when I talk about St. John's, we don't refer to this as a school. We refer to St. John's as a great institution. And the reason for that is St. John's is more than a school to us. For many of our Johanians that are living in Malaysia or living abroad around the world, St. John's to us was more like a cradle of our dreams. St. John's to us was the foundations of our characters. St. John's to us was the incubators of our visions. And St. John's to us largely was nothing more than a home to us. I remember 33 years ago, I lived in the brothers' quarters yang dekat atas tu, atas kantin tu. So those days, padang yang anda tengok hari ini berlainan dari apa yang kami tengok pada masa itu. So we live in a school in the brothers' quarters, and Chunghwa was there, and we basically live, eat, sleep, and study in the school. Now, the invitation that I received today when St. John's institutions and the St. John's Alumni Association, to me, it was very, very meaningful, because it is more like a gift for me, not just to share the stories of my journey, but most importantly, it is actually an opportunity for us to celebrate the spirits of the Johanian that has lived on since 1904. You know, youngsters like you, sometimes sejarah itu penting. Sebab kalau kita tak bagi perhatian kepada sejarah, kita tak faham mengapa kami menjadi insan yang berperangai pada masa ini. So those things are different. So students today, I think you have to understand and study history, because history makes us where we are today. Now, I must say that I'm getting a little bit emotional, because normally when I make speeches, I am very composed. But today is very emotional, because this is the stage. This same school hall, 33 years ago, it was where I make speeches, and that basketball out there, it was where we play basketball. The school field out there, it was where we do our short putt. We did our walkathon. We did our saving the school bus campaign, and I was actually the council prefect. I was the disciplinary committee chairman. I still have my CB badge, you know, right? I still have my CB badge, which I kept in 1985, right? Signed by Brother Kashian Papu. And of course, it was also a place whereby I tried very hard not to fall in love with another student when I prepared very hard for SPM and SPPM. Now, you see, despite the fact that I might be 30 over years older than you, and I might be standing here perceived to be very successful by many people out there, but I like to believe that somehow, somewhere within your heart and within my heart, there's a very strong similarity. And this is the very first hypothesis that I like to make when I wrote this speech myself. It took me 2 weeks to write this speech today. Every single photo that you would see in the presentation, specially selected, because I hope that you would gain something out of this. Now, my fellow Johannans, the title of my speech today, the school has asked me to talk about my story. And when I thought about it, perhaps the speech ought to be titled, From Kampung Boy to a Global Citizen, a Johannan's Journey. Now, I was born in the mid-60s, during the last centuries. My grandparents from my father's and my mother's side lived in villages in Kuala, in Benta, in Pahang. So I was a Kampung boy. And we, during that time, belonged to the lowest ranking of the social economy in Malaysia. My grandfather, from my father's side, Datuk saya, so he died as a waste item collector. Kerja dia buat tukang kutip botol dan besi buruk pada zaman itu. You know those yang ride bicycle, pergi ke kampung dekat sini dan sana, dia kutip besi buruk. And it was a kind of an occupation that they collect unused metals, bottles, junks for recycling. You know, my daughter today, he said to me, "Oh, Akong during those days was very, very eco-friendly. He did a lot of things for green, for environment, you know." So I said, "Wow, okay, not bad. My ancestor was very eco-friendly." So dia tukang ride bicycle, dia kutip some besi buruk. So my daughter said, "Hey, that one very eco-friendly." So it was very good. So Akong, my grandfather, apparently was playing a great role in helping the world to become better. Then my grandfather from my father's side, yang datuk dari mak saya sebelah tu. So as you can see from the picture here, so I have my grandfather from my father's side that was very eco-friendly. Then my grandfather from my mother's side went around cutting trees. So his job was to, you know, really go into jungle dekat Pahang with all this chainsaw. So he cut trees. So it was actually a very, very challenging and difficult job, because I remember when I was small, when we used to visit the jungle in Kuala, in Benta, the trunk was this big. So I think there was knowledge, there was special skills. How do you chop a tree? You cut halfway, and then you wait for the wind to blow, and then you push the tree. So blah 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 blah. All the trees would actually move in one direction. Now, here's a photo of me and my parents, and I believe this was maybe in 1968, 1969. Now, my father had to work a few jobs. Dia kerja beberapa pekerjaan. So he worked a few jobs just to make sure that our family were well provided for, so that we can bring food to the table. Now, when my father and my mother, when they got married, the first job that my father had was working as a tin miner dekat kolam timah, besi timah. So my father had to go under the blazing sun, you know, buat dulang macam tu. Can you imagine buat dulang macam tu in the 1960s? Yeah. So it was actually not a very motivational job, and given the fact that my father graduated as a high school certificate a person, those days bukan ramai murid ataupun ramai pelajar yang dapat peluang untuk belajar di universiti. Kalau dah graduate dari high school, so you're considered actually someone with a great knowledge. And yet, because those days my father didn't have any social connections. So the first kerja he had to do buat dulang besi, biji timah. So that was the first job that he had, and that wasn't the only job that he had. And one of the day's jobs that my father used to do was driving a taxi. You know, pada zaman tu tak ada Uber tau. So there you are. Itu dia mak saya, very proud, standing next to dia punya taxi. So my mom is sitting there right now. So my father had to drive a taxi and during daytime. Sebab mengapa? Sebab pada malam, masa dekat malam, bapa saya kerja dekat Nanyang Siampang. So jadi pada pagi masa dekat siang, dia tak ada kerja lain lah. Dia buat, then if that's the case, might as well saya buat pemandu taxi. Why is that? So that he can use his time to earn more money to support the family. Itu yang latar belakang masa saya sebagai seorang kanak-kanak yang hampir 40-50 tahun yang lepas. Now, despite the economic challenges that my father and my mother had to face in raising our family, my sisters and I were never deprived from love in the family. Now, I could recall when masa kecil-kecil dulu, budak-budak masa tu, so my father would always bring me to attend all the Chinese wedding dinner tau. You know, Chinese wedding dinner, it was the only time you get to eat yisang, you know. But then Chinese dinner, wedding dinner, is actually not free, mahal tu. Because when you go and attend a Chinese wedding dinner, you mesti bagi angpau. So you know what we do? Mak dan saya, kita buat change. So one time I attend, one time my mother attend. Right? So then I get to eat my yisang. Today is not very eco-friendly, but this is how we were, right? Those days, yeah. Now, then came primary school. I started my primary education in Chonghua Primary School dekat Setapak, dekat Setapak lah, bukan jauh dari sini. And I was very well liked by my teachers. My academic results were good, and then I represented my school in public speaking, in singing song competition, and I was very active in sports as well. And I remember I was one of the school captains. I think masa tu kita ada 3 orang school captain, very different from here. So we had 3 school captains then. But during my primary school, the biggest incident that I remember for the rest of my life was not because how successful, how well I did in my studies. It wasn't because how well I sang, how well I spoke in the class. But the biggest incident that I remember from my entire primary school was that I stole money from my mother. I stole money from my mother, and I lied to my parents. I lied to the school that the money was asked by a gangster in the school. You know, I stole money from my mother. And I remember my father had to write a very long letter to the headmaster. How can you allow this to happen in the school? Macam mana boleh jadi, you know, kejadian macam ini? Macam mana? You know, dalam sekolah ada gangster yang nak hantam anak saya. Kalau tidak dia tak bagi duit. In reality, I was the one that stole money from my mother. A lot of money those days, because my mother worked as a tailor. Why is that? And the reason for that was simply because as a child, I couldn't stand the temptation of being a poor person. I couldn't stand the temptation where I look at other children, they go shopping in the mall. Dekat Chowkit Road tau, those days, dekat Chowkit Road ada satu kedai yang orang main, you know, kereta lumba. No, remember that? I don't think you have it, but today you have computer games. So many people were shopping in the mall, and many people actually bought toys, and many people were having fun because we couldn't afford it. So what did I do? I stole money from my mother. And after that, obviously my mom and my father, they discovered. And I remember my father had to write a second letter, a very long letter to the headmaster. My father never told me what was the content in the letter, but I believe he must have protected my honor. He must have told a story to the headmaster that we found the missing money. The money must have been misplaced somewhere, and then we found the money. So my son wasn't a thief. I remember that because that day my father said, "Come, Asing, he said, "This letter, bring it to your headmaster, tak boleh tengok." So I brought this letter to my headmaster, my pengetua, my headmaster, they buka, very serious looking. They look at it, very long letter. Then he said, "Okay, go back to class." My father must have protected my honor. So that was the biggest things that I remember in my life during primary school. I'm not saying that you are a thief, because I did mention that there must be something similar between you and I. Because when we were kids, when we were children, we make mistakes. And sometimes we make mistakes so big that without you realizing it, you don't have a second chance. You know, that mistake, that incident has left such a strong dent in my heart. And until today, I regretted what I have done for that day. My fellow Johannans, apparently, there are mistakes in life where it can never be undone. There are regrets in life where sorry would never be enough. But again, I was blessed because my parents loved me so much that they protected me when I was dumb and stupid. Not every mistake in life can receive a second chance, but I did. So then came secondary school. Secondary school, those saya bukan masuk St. John's macam tu tau. I didn't come to St. John's automatically. I went into a very kampung school called Raja Abdullah. Dekat mana? Dekat Jinjang, dekat Kampung. So that was my secondary school from remove to Form 3. Where again, you know, nasib memang macam tu dah. Sekolah yang saya pergi memang ramai yang jadi gangsters. So in my secondary school dekat Raja Abdullah, also a lot of students were involved in gang activities. Well, I think when you receive a second chance in your life, it kind of changed yourself drastically. For some reasons, I became very serious in my studies and I began to take responsibility for my life. And again, I was elected as the school monitor for 4 years consecutively from remove to Form 3, and I received many academic excellence awards through the years. See, I was even the school captain of the school football team. You know, there you are, I'm here. Right? Okay. Now ini tip dia, lain kali nak jadi school captain, football team, nak jadi goalie pula, pakai pakaian mesti pilih sedikit tau. Those days I don't have taste for my clothing. But then you must also understand ya, pada zaman itu bukan semua orang yang jadi goalkeeper boleh jadi school captain tau untuk pasukan sekolah. And I think one of our Johannans, Chow Chi Kiong, back in the 60s. So he was a goalkeeper in Malaysian football team, and he became the first Malaysian football player that went pro, you know. Now I want to come back to this story about me being the school captain in a goalkeeper for my school team. You remember this for a while. Now, then came the first most important turning point in my life. First most important turning point in my life. I became the first student that scored 8 A's in my SRP. You know, 8 A's in SRP, masa tu, I think 8 A's, 7 A1, 6 A1, and then one of the subject was P7 or P8 for my bahasa Cina or for my lukisan. Pass P7. Yang lain semua A1, 6 A1s, you know. And then during that day, my school penolong kanan dekat Sekolah Menengah Raja Abdullah pada masa itu, Encik Chan Chin Yang. Encik Chan Chin Yang, he felt that I deserved to go into a better school. So, he brought me along with my mother. Dia pandu kereta yang betul-betul yang buruk dan lama tu. I think Morris Minor masa tu. So, dia pandu kereta dari Jinjang ke dalam bandar Kuala Lumpur. Then he brought me and my mother to Jabatan Pendidikan, Education Department pada masa tu. So dia jumpa dengan pengarah pendidikan dekat Kuala Lumpur. Dia sembang, dia kata, tuan pengarah, ini murid banyak bagus punya. Dia punya A, tengok dari kiri ke kanan semua ada A. So saya rasa lebih baik kalau dia pergi sekolah yang lebih elit, macam dekat St. John's dan sebagainya. Tuan pengarah pada masa itu, dia tengok muka saya, you know, those rambut panjang bukan main, pun nampak macam gangster. Tapi when he look at my result slip, he look at it, oh, okay. Then he looked up, he look at it, without looking at me, then he say, okay, mana sekolah you nak pergi? You nak pergi St. John's ke? You nak pergi VI? Tahu VI? Tahu ah? VI ada lagi hari ni ah? Ada ah? Okay. Sama lah during my time, VI, Stapak High, you know, Maxwell, were rival kan. So then masa tu, then they said, okay, so mana you nak pergi? You nak pergi St. John's ke? You nak pergi VI? So I look at my mother. I ingat, I say, kalau pergi St. John's, I duduk dekat Segambut. Kalau saya pergi St. John's, I duduk bas, satu bas saja. Kalau saya pergi VI, kena buat 2 bas. So I say, okay lah sir, I pergi St. John's lah, since 1 bus saja. Suddenly I became the Johanian. Because I tak nak buat 2 kali bas. So I ambil 1 bus, so I became a Johanian. Now, that became the largest turning point in my life. Because when I came to St. John's, with the recommendation letter from the pengarah pendidikan dekat Kuala Lumpur, I was walking up the portico tau. Ingat tak portico tu? Dekat depan tu. You masuk sekolah ni, tengok, my goodness, I've never seen a building so big. And then you look around, all the plates, besar bukan main, all the school captains, all the school rally, cheer, whatever, you tak tahu macam mana nak pronounce. Right? And then you look at all the big, then you naik portico until you go up to the top. You know, those days, I tak tahu hari ni masih sama ke tidak, at the top of portico, the first floor, so you have all the trophies. Oh, still have got see my trophy or not? Go and see. So all the trophies, I look at it, seriously, this is a school that I was to come. Then as I turn around, you know, office pengetua dekat sebelah kanan kan, today still there, right? Then came this very short man, spectacle, squarish, very stern looking. He walked to me. You, where are you going? His name was Phua Seng Tiong. He was the penolong kanan then. They say, I want to come to St. John's. I look at him, I say, I want to come to St. John's. No. St. John's got no place for you. That's what Mr. Phua Seng Tiong told me. First words. No. St. John's got no place for you. See your results. I said, result? They look at result. Okay, come tomorrow, go buy books. Before you come to school on Monday, you make sure you cut your hair. So then again, you know, that was a very fierce and welcoming welcome to St. John's. Immediately I said, should I come to this school? Do I belong to this society? St. John's during those days, atas bukan main tau. Atas bukan main. Kalau masa dulu, kalau you datang dekat pintu masuk tu, you see all the big cars. Siapa tu yang jadi classmate saya? Abdullah Badawi punya anak, Kamal Badawi was my classmate. Roshan Jafar, the Central Bank Governor punya anak, was my classmate. And then Tan Sri Rafida Aziz's daughter was my classmate. And Dato' is here, my classmate. And there you are, me from a kampung school, deep inside my heart, with a hidden story of being a thief that I hope that I was never discovered. I came to St. John's. And then, because my results was like 8 A's, 7 A1s, they put me in 4 Science 1. 4 Science 1. I went to in this class, my class teacher was a lady, a very dedicated lady called Mrs. Nkam Chew. I don't remember Nkam Chew. Yeah, remember Nkam Chew. So those days, when you come to the class, I think those days, Bahasa English was very important. So every single week, Mrs. Nkam Chew would make us do a reading report. You know, you must do reading report, you must read a book, then you must write a report, and then worse still, she asks you to do the reading report in the class. Now, this is when I had the so-called a Kampung boy who couldn't even speak English properly, and my destiny in life was about to change. Now, as I can tell, that the subsequent 4 years that I spent in St. John's has actually redefined my life values completely and given me the strongest foundation in my life. I've learned far more than any conventional textbooks could have taught me. I learned that the heart of education is the education of the heart. Mr. Phua Sing Tiong said that, and I learned that the value of a person shall never be judged or determined by his wealth and status, but from his character and wisdom. I learned what it meant to be a Johannian. And I will come back more later to share with you some of the success factors that I've learned from St. John's that have actually helped me to become a global citizen. Now, my fellow Johannians, like what the Malay proverb has said, malang tidak berbau. As I was studying in St. John's, Form 4, Form 5, Lower 6 and Upper 6, my father was diagnosed with cancer. And while I was preparing for my SPM, my father was a pillar of the family, and I knew that I had to be really, really good in my education so that I could quickly find a job, enter a good university, find a job, then I would be able to elevate my father's financial burden. So after St. John's, I went to UKM. And during those days, those days only rich kids will go to overseas to study in overseas. And the chance of me obtaining a scholarship from government, from anybody, was very difficult during those days. And after I graduated from UKM, with no connections and no help from anyone, I managed to find 6 jobs. I got 6 job offer, and I chose one company called McCann Erickson, because McCann Erickson was a company with great culture, a company that was very, very reputable global company. So I began my career as an intern in McCann Erickson. And here's a photo with the very first professional mentors in my life. So Mr. Ong Kiam Heong accepted me as his intern, and Mr. Ong unfortunately passed away 3 years ago. I worked very hard, and I knew that was the best way to please my father. Because seeing me become successful in my life was my father's biggest wish. And I was promoted from an intern to the positions of a manager within 18 months. 18 months. That was probably the best record that any person would have set in the company. And then my father passed away at the age of 49. And this was the second biggest turning point in my life. After I graduated from university, 18 months later, my father passed away. He was only 49. The responsibility of shouldering the financial burdens of the family. And during that time, I was newly married and my wife was about to deliver my first baby. My younger sister was 11, 12 years old, and financially, I was really broke because as a young person, I didn't know how to manage my personal finance. I used a lot of credit cards. Until end of the month, you realize that you're slapped with such a huge credit card and you have to pay such a huge interest installment. It was really, really bad. Then came the opportunity to work in China. Apparently, my company then, Viken Ericsson, they needed a senior executive that know how to speak English, that knows how to speak in Mandarin, and someone that was professional and trustworthy. And then I went and worked in China. Those days, no one wanted to work in China because a job in China was considered a very hardship posting. If you were to look at the background, the hairstyles and etc. So this is one of our partners that we work in China. But I was recommended by my boss, and the only reason why I went, it was because they paid me double the salary. So that was the only reason I went. And I thought I was only going to be there for 2 or 3 years, make enough money, and I come back. But without me realizing it, I stayed there for 25 years. And that probably was the best decision that I've made in my business careers. For this was a time where China was rising as the largest economy in the world. And somehow, for some reason, I kind of knew that whatever things that I've done in the past seems to be preparing for me to face a larger challenge in the future. And I felt that eventually this would transform my horizon and my destiny. I became a global citizen. Now, today, in Malaysia, in China, in many countries in the world, many people would consider me as a successful global citizen. And in fact, one of the Malaysian magazines actually published an article on me with the headline saying that I was probably the best export of talent from Malaysia to the world. Now, how do you define a global citizen? What do you mean by a global citizen? I guess the simplest answer would be someone that terbang sini, terbang sana, sini ada, sana ada, Malaysia, truly Asia, fly here, fly there. Now that doesn't make you a global citizen, because I think there's a very shallow and narrow-minded way of looking at the concepts of global citizen. Now, after spending a few years in China, I felt that I needed to sharpen my knowledge. So I went on and I studied over the weekends. I took my executive MBA program from Rutgers State University of New Jersey. It was difficult because I was working, so I had to go to the class on every Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday and Friday from 6 to 10 p.m. and every Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 6 p.m. I was working in the morning and then I have to go to the class at night time. So the professors or the lecturers will fly in from the US and then will teach all of us in the class. Now, I must have done pretty well because I became the first Asian student that was given the honor of the Distinguished Alumnus Award from the university. And the university even accorded me with the positions of a professor in business. And then subsequently, I went on and became the alumni of Harvard Business School. I studied in Harvard Business School. I did the advanced management program, and then the school then invited me to be one of the few global advisor for the board of directors in the business school. So every year I would fly to Boston and to meet with the school board of directors, governance, and actually I was the advisory board member from Asia. As a global business leader, I felt that the role of business shouldn't just confine into the business of business. And I became globally active in advocating the values of technology for greater good. So see, you have to understand that during your time, siapa yang tak pakai Facebook? Good. Alamak, how come you don't pakai Facebook? Now, you heard about these things called artificial intelligence, right? Now, you heard about this thing called drone. You heard about these things called e-payment. Do you know that by the year 2030, tahun 2030, more than half of our clothing will be injected with a microchip. Okay? By the year 2030, out of 10 people that work as a board members of board of directors, one person will be a robot. Who knows, by the year 2050, you have a lot of robots that are walking around the streets and they become citizens of a country. In Arab, one of the robots by the name of Sophia has already obtained a citizenship. Right? Now, technology is going to be something that's going to impact you. Doesn't matter whether you are science students or art students. Technology will change your world, the way that you live in the future. So, as a global business leader, I felt that it was important for me to tell the world, to advocate to the world the good about technology. Kalau tidak, technology will be used for bad things. And that is why I get invited. I have a chance to meet with President George Bush. I had a chance to discuss with the Prime Ministers of Japan, and I have a chance to even meet up with the Prime Ministers of China. I even shared my knowledge with the Queen of Finland. Right? So this is what I do as a global citizen, as a global leader. Now, having a handshake, it doesn't mean anything unless every single meeting that you have with these powerful people in the world, it arrives or it derives of something. In France, the president of France would invite every year top 50 CEOs from the top technology companies in the world. 50 of us, CEOs of Google, CEO of Facebook, CEO of Microsoft, CEO of what else we have, Amazon, etc. So 50 of us will meet in the palace of the French president. We would spend one whole afternoon brainstorming, thinking, worrying about how technology would impact education, how technology would make the society more divided, how technology would make jobs disappear, and more importantly, how technology would make us a better or worse human being. So that's what a global citizen is all about. Now, in Australia, the mayors of Brisbane has made me the honorary ambassador so that I could play an active role in strengthening bilateral relationship between the city of Brisbane and the city of Shenzhen in China. And in London, I was invited by the members of parliament and to deliver my insights about how things should work in the world of digital economy. And at the International Monetary Fund, IMF in New York, I was a keynote speaker because central bankers around the world, everybody was very worried that, the concepts of GDP, gross domestic product, how do you measure GDP? So GDP is actually an economic concept to measure about progress of the nation, the total output of the society of a nation. But GDP never measure happiness. GDP never measure over well-being of a society. And when the world is becoming so innovatively driven by internet, does the concepts of GDP that we knew from the past is still relevant today? So how do we measure GDP? So I was asked to give my opinion in this forum. And at UNESCO in Paris just last month, I spoke about why it was important to push for reform and building more awareness about how the world should come together in making sure that when machines is becoming more relevant, more dominant in our day-to-day life, humans still have a role to play. What principles do we set for machines to work and co-live with human beings in a world that ultimately becomes so algorithm-driven? Now, these are just some of the examples that form part of my mission, trying to contribute to change the world that we live in today. As a Johannian, as a Kampung boy. Now, and of course, those days when I was CP, I macam dia orang aja. You all sit here, I berdiri sana. It's okay lah, don't hate them. They're just doing their job. But then you keep quiet. Those days, CP will stand like you also. Very sad. No chair. You guys are doing a great service. Thank you so much. Now, and of course, I played my humble duty as a Malaysian in Malaysia. Here you can see I was invited to give a briefing to our previous Prime Minister, Tun Abdullah Badawi, during the unfortunate incidents of MH370. And when Malaysia was launching our very first digital economy blueprint, I was invited to deliver a keynote speech to the Prime Minister. The previous Prime Minister, whom you may not know, was also a Johannian. When Bank Negara Malaysia wanted to organize the Global Islamic Finance International Conference, the governor of Bank Negara invited me to come back and help him educate our bankers in Malaysia on how our economy could move forward into a cashless society. And finally, when the ministries of education, when our ministry was looking for future pathways that could formulate an education policy that was befitting the challenge of Industrial Revolution 4.0, again, I was given the honor to come back and share my views. So my Johannians, there you are. A Kampung boy has indeed become a global citizen. Now, what did I learn from St. John's that has actually helped me, that has actually prepared me to be a global citizen? Now, there are 5 key things that I learned from St. John's when I was here. First of all, pride. Dato', we talk about pride. Very importantly, pride. Johannians, having pride in everything that you do matters. Having pride in everything that you do matters. Remember I told you the story about how I felt when I first came to St. John's 33 years ago. I was a Kampung boy, and I mentioned that my classmates were all very, very powerful people. Now, one particular incident broke my heart. I was in 4 Science 1, and my teacher, as I said, was a very dedicated lady called Miss Ng Kam Chew. So, Mrs. Ng would make us do a reading report every week. Now, I was new, so before I came to St. John's, I was in Sekolah Menengah Raja Abdullah. I never read English. Yang I tahu tu bahasa Malaysia. I bukan saja betul-betul pay attention untuk belajar bahasa English pada zaman itu. So then, out of a sudden, every week do you still do reading report today? Do you do reading report today? Oh, nasib baik, but then no good, because reading is important. So you know what I did? Reading that book was so difficult. So I create my own story. I created my own story. You know, as if that you just read a book. You wrote your own reading report. You go and chapter the author's name, the publisher's name. I created my own story. Then I give up. Oh, okay. Every week I do that. I think the school teacher must have found out. So he say, Lau Sing Yi, stand up and read your reading report. Okay, I stood up. So this is a story that really hurt my pride in the positive manner. So I saw that word, COLONEL, and I stood up. I say, the colonel story. Then the whole class laughed. The whole class laughed. The colonel story. And I believe my classmates, they didn't have any ill feeling. They were just being mischievous. Macam you kan, when somebody make a mistake in the class, you will just laugh. But during that time, I felt so embarrassed. And I told myself I would never anymore allow anyone to laugh at me anymore. I would never allow to be looked down and laughed at anymore. See, the thing is this, you can remain very, very angry, or you can turn your humiliation, your anger into something more positive. You can take action. You can take bold steps to rectify, to improvise, to become better. You know what I did? My father told me, memorize dictionary. I memorized dictionary. Form 4, Oxford Dictionary. I speak every day in my room. Chonghua I was a class CP of Chonghua. I went to Chonghua's class. You know, those days CP, just like you are given one class to take care of, and then you have to go to that class. And when you go to that class, those days, every CPs were so good in English. I went to Chonghua's class, and the first thing I did when I go to the class, I must make announcement. I cannot make announcement in English. I couldn't. Chonghua, remember? But, so there was this word called athletics. The athletes. How do you pronounce athletes? Athletics. Athletes. Remember Chonghua? Athletics. I couldn't. I went into the class, I just then I ran out from the class. I was very embarrassed. There was 4 Science 1. You came from a Kampung boy background into this very atas punya tempat. But let me tell you, the world that you're living in today will have a lot of very, very refined position, refined place. You can choose to be very negative about it. You say, tak payahlah, I tak tahu, buang masa aja, menjahanam, tak payah saya pergi belajar. You can remain very negative, but you can become one of them, but remain your own culture and your own values. You should not be laughed at any price. Now, so pride can be a very strong motivation for advancement and therefore achievement. Pride, when becomes the strongest motivation for success, it can be a very, very potent and very powerful. Now, the worst thing than becoming a second-class citizen in any social group is to become a second-class human being. Take pride in everything that you do. Have dignity to always become a better person than you are today. The second thing that St. John's has taught me was about determination and discipline. Don't just have a dream. A dream is just a dream unless you put action into it. But have a plan to achieve your dream. And most of the time, in order to reach out to your dream, you need to be very, very disciplined. How much do you want it? How much are you willing to work for it? And more importantly, how much pain are you willing to sacrifice to achieve your dream? Say you want to be a sportsman, you want to be a sports person. Chonghua was the sports person that represented the state. During our time, we have Rabuan Peak. Rabuan Peak, they actually ran and represented Malaysia in Asian Games. Now, you want to be a sports person. You want to be a very good sports person. Define good. How good is good? Is it just to represent your class? Is it just to represent your school? What about representing the nation? What about becoming the first person that win an Olympics gold for Malaysia? How much are you willing to work for it? How big is your dream? See, yours starts with a very strong mindset, a highly disciplined mindset. Train this from young and you'll be very surprised how much this will be your driver as you move forward in your later life. Now, the question then becomes, macam mana nak jadi disiplin? I memang suka lepak aja. Macam mana nak jadi disiplin? How do you become disciplined? You gotta find your own ways, young men. My story was this. When I was in St. John's, I lived in the brother quarters, right? Then I would wake up every morning at 3:30 in the morning. I would wake up 3:30 in the morning. I would study until 6 o'clock in the morning and I would jog around Bukit Nanas. I jog around Bukit Nanas, I pakai I punya Walkman, masa tu tak ada iPhone. I pakai I punya iPhone, my Walkman, I listen to The Eyes of the Tiger. Chang, 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 chang. Sylvester Stallone was my idol. Sylvester Stallone was my idol. He was an Italian immigrant to United States and became very, very successful because he was hardworking. He wrote Rocky script by himself. He acted on it and he directed it and became a very successful person. You have to find your idol. Find someone that you can believe in for the right reasons. Find a reason to take away your pain. So when I listen to my song, The Eyes of the Tiger, every morning, 6 in the morning, I jog around Bukit Nanas, from here all the way down, 10 rounds. When I came back to the school, students were coming into the school. Then I went upstairs, I took my shower. During those days, I think those days we had 2 school bells. First school bell was 7:20, about 7:20, and the assembly starts at 7:30. Then I went to school, I belajar, belajar standard from 4, from 5, lower 6, upper 6, sama punya timetable, same timetable. And then I come back from school, lepas makan dekat those days kantin tu Uncle Robert kan, dia punya chicken rice, nasi goreng. Those days Uncle Robert, I makan my nasi goreng, I makan my chicken rice, I come back to my quarters, I sleep in the afternoon. Pukul 3 I bangun, then I do my homework. Then pukul 5 ke 5:30 I play basketball je. With siapa ni, Chonghua, with a few in borders, we have 12 of us. We all play basketball je. Lepas tu pukul 6:30, pukul 7 we all pergi makan nasi lemak dekat Masjid India. Just across the street. Nasi kandar dekat Masjid India. Then kita balik, then we shower, we have to cuci baju. We cuci baju at night, and then during those days belum lagi ada lagu macam Sejati lah, belum lagi. So then after that, ada murid-murid, ada pelajar yang diorang suka belajar dekat masa malam. Tapi I tak boleh. I get very annoyed, I get distracted when they are noisy. So I would study until about 10:30, then I tidur. My roommate Yong King, dia akan belajar sampai pukul 3 ni pagi. Dia pukul 3 lepas dia belajar, dia balik, dia masuk bilik saya, dia bangunkan saya. Pukul 3 I start my morning activities. You have to be so disciplined if you wanted something big for your life. During your time, Becoming disciplined takes a lot of practice. Becoming disciplined takes a lot of determinations. And more importantly, this is the biggest gift to you. If you can become disciplined and it becomes a habit, dia macam autopilot aja. Dia macam autopilot. So when you have this discipline, no challenges in life will be too big for you. You can do anything. So this is the second learning I learned from St. John's. Now, the third thing that I learned from St. John's was the importance of having a progressive mindset. As I say, the purpose of education should never be just about creating winners. Purpose of education is not about creating winners for the selected few. That's not the reason for education. But instead, it should be focused on ensuring that every one of you here are given the equal opportunity to realize your fullest potential. Your fullest potential. Now, I know that not every one of you here can grow up to be Dr. Mahathir. Not every one of you can be Einstein. But every one of you owe it to yourself to realize your fullest potential. You know, this takes a lot of self-awareness. Ini memerlukan tahap kesedaran diri yang begitu tinggi. You know, dunia yang anda bakal akan mengalami merupakan satu hakikat yang begitu berbeza dari alam sekolah hari ini. Anda akan menemui pelbagai cabaran yang mungkin luar dari pengalaman, yang mungkin luar dari pengetahuan yang anda tahu pada hari ini. Kecabaran yang mungkin tidak akan berasal dari persaingan dalam negeri, tetapi berpunca dari faktor seperti globalisasi, apatah lagi yang saya sebut tadi, faktor teknologi, faktor inovasi yang akan membawa ombak transformasi yang begitu besar yang akan mengubah apa manusia yang memahami tentang pekerjaan. What we know about jobs today will be so changed, so defined. You know, Oxford University did a research 2 years ago. When I was in Oxford University 2 years ago, the research says that by the year 2025, half of the jobs in United States will be replaced by machine. Tengok mereka yang jadi apa tu, receptionist, those who do receptionist, those who do services, even lawyers are worried that technology will replace their jobs. Do you know that there are people doing research in America, in China about driverless car, kereta yang pandu bersendiri. You know, those days when I was in St. John's, one of my favorite programs, TV show, was Knight Rider. Remember? You know Knight Rider? How many of you watch Knight Rider? Alamak, we buddy lah. You ingat tak Knight Rider? Kan? You look at the creator, how the car can drive by itself. This one bukan sandiwara. This one is real, because even my company back in China, we are doing research about artificial intelligence. You know, it's very simple. Driving a car is not a very scientific. No, senang aja. Semua orang boleh pakai kereta, boleh pandu kereta. You know what you need to drive a car? You need mata, kan? You need steering wheel, kan? You need to know bila nak tekan brake, kan? Mata, steering wheel, tekan brake. That's all. Now, if machines dekat depan kereta tu ada satu kamera yang boleh ukur jarak. So when camera dia jalan-jalan, akan will crash into the wall. The camera will tell the CPU, pakai brake. Then the camera will tekan brake. So when the camera look at the colors of the traffic light, green, jalan. Red, stop. Yellow, tekan. See? This is called artificial intelligence. And you know, then think about what will happen to my bapa pada zaman tu. You nak jadi pemandu taksi pun tak ada kerja tau. Sebab taksi pada zaman depan, zaman yang akan datang, semua boleh automatic yang dipandu oleh mesin. Think about such things. If we are not progressive, then there will be no hope for the future. As a Johanian, your biggest responsibility is to become a responsible and progressive person. Now, this begins with independent thinking on issues surrounding you. For if you do not have the capability to think independently, every one of you will potentially be just one step from evil. Ini yang bahaya ni, sebab ini zaman social media. Apa kelakar, apa yang disebut dalam Facebook, apa yang disebut dalam Twitter, mana you tahu itu benar atau tidak? Apa yang menjadi kesedaran, apa yang menjadi hakikat yang betul-betul benar? How do you define what is right? How do you define what is truth? Does it mean that truth is not something that you see, is no longer truth? Do you believe in everything that the newspaper tells you today? No. Why not? Because during my day, anything that published in newspaper, Allah sure true punya. What happened to the world? Why you cannot believe in newspaper that is everything is going to be true? So what is truth? Apa tu kebenaran? As a Johanian, you must have an independent thinker. Kalau tidak, very soon you going to masuk dalam masyarakat yang betul-betul yang penuh dengan hakikat yang berlainan daripada apa yang anda tahu hari ini. You will be swept behind. A lot of people will come, you tell you, oh this is this, and then you jadi. You undi sini, you undi sana, you buat ini, buat sana. Jahanam negara kita. Now, so when I was in St. John's 33 years ago, standing right here, 33 years ago, this was the same school hall, sama aja. 33 years ago, I was delivering a public speaking on dasar apartheid, sistem kejam yang bertentangan dengan konsep dan hak asasi kemanusiaan. Masa itu, umur saya 17 tahun aja, I knew about dasar apartheid. I have an independent thinking about what was right and what was wrong in the society. I even told the government, I think adalah sudah tiba masanya where we should have a dui-party system. It took us 30 years to become a dui-party system in this country. I wasn't the only one. My classmate, Nachapa was a Johanians of the Year. He unfortunately passed away 20 over years ago. Nachapa was a Johanians of the Year, and he wrote about the failures of education system more than 30 years ago. One of the science students, Fong Sing Yu, a science student, talked about the issues of morality in a world that was increasingly materialistic driven. 30 years ago, Nachaba spoke about the failures of education system. Fong Xiong Yu talked about a world that was becoming so materialistic. Now today, what do you talk about? What do you talk about? You talk about PUBG? Siapa main PUBG? Rate berapa? Rank berapa? Tak tahu. Rank 30 ada tak? No. I rank 35. 50? You play PUBG 50? Oh, I rank 35 cari PUBG Tapi main 2 jam sekali maksimum. Kalau 1 jam boleh, lain tak boleh Now, someone asked me, why did I bother? Why bother to travel thousands of miles just to come back to talk to the students? Mengapa? Why travel all the way back to Malaysia just to talk to the students? Bukan ramai, sedikit aja murid dekat sini. Kalau tengok look at all the prime ministers, all the menteri-menteri, look at all the audience in the world that I make my speeches. This is the smallest groups of speeches I ever made in my life. Mengapa? Why did I bother to come back to St. John's? Because one of you here might be the next prime minister. One of you here might be the next inventor for a biotechnology, artificial intelligence driven robot. One of you here might be the next person that change and reform education system. One of you here potentially might help our comrades, our rakyat di pinggiran banda-banda to become richer, to stay away from kemiskinan. One of you here. That's the reasons why I came back. Because I think our country is sick. Our country is not well. 60 years after achieving independence, we have so much that we need to rebuild this country. And one of you here has to be that leader. Many of you here have to play a role as a team player to rebuild the nation. This is what St. John's is all about. Fide et labore. We have faith in what we do, and we have hard work. The spirit of Johannine. We soar higher as an eagle. We will never dishonor the names of Fide et labore. This is why I came back. Now, there are 25 words in our national anthems. Negaraku, negaraku, tanah tumpahnya darahku, rakyat hidup bersatu dan maju. If we only know how to bersatu and we forgot how to be maju, very soon there's nothing more left to be bersatu about. So think about this. The role of building a stronger future lies with you. You are the next generation, because we can try our best to be united, and if we are not progressive, we will have no future. Now, the fourth thing that St. John's has taught me was the real meaning of leadership. Now, many people today, when they look at leadership, they think about pangkat, they think about status, and more importantly, they think about money. Now, in reality, the ultimate purpose of leadership is to serve the people. Now, what we do for ourselves die with us. What we do for the others and the world remains and becomes immortal. Albert Pike, a famous general in the 18th century, has said this. When I came to St. John's, the first student body that I joined was the quartermaster. Ada tak quartermaster dekat sini? Stand up. I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you. Mengapa seorang saja dari kamu yang jadi quartermaster? Lain semua nak jadi CP aja. Sebab mengapa? Pakai suits. You know, quartermaster, yang kalau tengok ini, all these sahabat saya yang menjadi quartermaster, they felt that they are the one that's forgotten by the school. Quartermaster did a lot of things that nobody wanted to do. Quartermaster taught me to be responsible. Quartermaster taught me that leadership was not about power and position. Leadership was about serving others. Quartermaster. Now, I remember during my time, and I'm still glad that St. John's still keep this tradition. During my time, we have a special division resource room where students that are blind, students that are disabled, they would come and join us to study. My roommate and I, Yong King, we used to take turn. We read for Siva. Siva was a blind student that lived with us. So we would read for Siva. Siva would then type in his brailing machines to take notes. So these are the feeling as a Johannine that we learned from the days, in those days. Now, the sad things about the world that we are seeing today, which you will be experiencing very soon, is that the world today, we are filled with a lot of artificial leaders with no intelligence, and not to mention compassion. And please do not grow up to be like them. Don't be artificial leaders with no intelligence, and don't be leaders without compassion. And finally, my Johannines, the most valuable lesson that St. John has taught me was to become a man of integrity. Now, when you walk into the real world, when you become a very successful person, you will be given more power and responsibility. The worst thing that will ever happen to you is when you trade your soul for money. The greatest damage can ever happen to humanity is when smart people trying to outsmart the law of righteousness and thinking that the law of righteousness can be beaten and they will stay free for eternity. This will never be the case because justice always prevails. One of our old Jahanians, who was in a very powerful position, will go to court in 3 years' time, in 3 days' time. So there will be a court, ex-Johanian. Be a man of integrity. This is something that you never compromise. So there you are, the 5 most important and valuable tips, learning experience that I had from St. John's. To have pride in everything that you do, to develop a strong habits of discipline, to become progressive in your mindset, and remember that leadership is about serving the others and not about position and status, and finally be a man of integrity and never trade your soul for money. Now, my fellow Johanians, as I mentioned earlier, I know that not all of us here would grow up to be Einstein. When I was sitting at your seat or same floor 33 years ago, I never thought that I would become who I am today. You know, the key questions that is actually disturbing many of you, you know, yang zaman yang masuk dalam era kegundaran, they say. Era kegundaran. Alamak, apa yang akan terjadi pada masa depan saya? Adakah ibu akan masih berada di sisi saya? You know, kalau when I think about those days, kita punya lagu, you know, di pohon cemara kita ukirkan kata cinta, you know, the alley cats and all that. We gundar, we takut. So what will happen to us? What if I am just one of the ordinary students? What if I am not the CPs? These are the gifted, selected. They are supposed to be successful in the future more than you? Question mark. Go do a research. Look at all the CPs from 1904 to now. How many of them are more successful than you? Tidak semestinya. No hard feeling, boys, I'm still CP, sama-sama. No, they would not have a higher chance to succeed than you. No, not like that. Now the question is, what if I'm just one of the ordinary guys? How do I define success? And how should I be prepared for a more successful future, especially if the odds are more against me than them? Teachers will remember them more than your name. So logically speaking, they stand a higher chance to succeed than you. So what do you do? Now let me bring you back to the school days before St. George. Remember I told you that I was a school captain? Ingat tak gambar ni? Yang I kata I tak ada taste untuk pakaian saya. Now, I didn't tell you, this school team, by the way, this school team dekat Raja Abdullah, we became the first school team that won the state competition. Kita jadi Johan peringkat. I was the school captain of the team. But you know what? What I didn't tell you was this. I was a school captain for one game. Satu game aja. Goalkeeper, one game. When I train so hard. Encik Samsudin dan Encik Rahim. Oh, law. I pendek aja tau, bukan panjang, bukan tinggi sangat tau. Yang sebelah this was the reserve school captain. Tengok dia. Dia lebih tinggi dari kepala saya. Tinggi macam tu. Then I was a goalkeeper and I was a school captain. Then the season competition start, inter-school competition. Main dekat Maxwell, main dekat VI. You go to, do you still have like Setapak High student coming here to play? You know those? And then final dekat Stadium Negara, Stadium Merdeka. My first game, I let in 6 goals. 6 goals tak, bukan main tau. 6 goals within the first 25 minutes. 6 goals, 25 minutes. Sebab mengapa? I panic. Then nasib baik tau, hari tu hujan, huge thunder, gung 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 gung. The referee had to cancel the game. Oh, nasib baik. When the game cancel kan, the next time when you play again, you start from 0-0. Then Encik Rahim dan Encik siapa tu? Encik Rahim dan Encik Samsudin. Lau, steady ya. Yeah, sorry cikgu. Then next game play on the Saturday. No. First game was play on the Saturday. The next game play on a Wednesday. Wednesday school day kan. Cuba fikir, pasukan sekolah main dekat padang tu, and then ini semua belajar tau. And Wednesday semua student boleh tengok kan. And then I was a school captain. I was a goalkeeper. I masuk tengah field tu, I tengok captain dari sebelah sana, I tak tahu Maxwell ke siapa tu. The guy came in macam tu, and I shake hand, dia tak nak shake hand. So, okay, boom. Balik tempat saya, Sengi, steady. Samsudin dekat tepi padang. Sengi, captain, steady ya. Captain, steady. Beep. 5 minutes, 4 goals. 5 minutes, 4 goals. I let in again, 5 minutes, 4 goals. Samsudin, beep, change. So I sat there as in the bench, as reserve for the rest of the season. See, the truth of the matter is, I was never number one in anything that I do. You tengok tu, I tried very hard. Number 2, number 2, this was what? Siva Sukumaran. He was number 3. He was my deputy monitor. This one, he was in standard 1 or standard 2. Kita main short part. You tengok number 1 tu, dia main muscle. And then this is dekat St. John, Timothy. We were running. I was never number 1. But the truth of the matter was, I might not be number 1 in anything, but I was always number 1 in trying my best in everything. You don't have to be number 1 in something, but you must always be number 1 in trying your best in everything. That's what matters. So during the football training session, I think I must have tried so hard. I impressed Encik Samsudin dan Encik Rahim, and then that's why they elected me as a school captain. Tapi when there came the real competition, I panicked. I kelakar. So what do you learn from this sort of thing? Think about this. There must be something that in your little heart that you cannot let go. There was this huge humiliation. There was this huge obstacle that you wanted to overcome. How many of you have made speeches here? Angkat. Okay, this is what I want you to promise me. Yeah? I like you, and you promise. You try to go for your best for the next time. Up here, share with your students about anything, about how you feel. You tahu nak bercakap kan? You know what's the difference between bercakap dan pemidato, syarahan, dan debat. What's the difference? You know how to speak, right? Who cannot speak? You know how to speak, right? The difference is when you're up here, you're panicked. The difference is when you're up here, this thing doesn't move as quick as you think. Now this is where confidence comes in. Never underestimate yourself. There's no ordinary person. There's only an ordinary person that tried extraordinary. Every one of us can speak. If Jan can cook, every one of us can speak. Every one of us can be extraordinary. So, if you think you're extraordinary, you think that you're ordinary, the easiest, even if you think you're an ordinary person, you should never give up at anything that you do. Now, the easiest way for you to be your best is to develop a curious mindset. Always ask why. Always go to the bottom of any questions. Ask question, why is it like that? Why? How come not like that? The teacher tell you that the formula of pi. What is the formula of pi? 3.11714 or 147, whatever. Yeah, something like that. So pi is 22 divided by 7 kan? Why 22 divided by 7? Why not 44 divided by 14? Go find out. You have to challenge your teachers behind. The teachers are here for you to challenge. I've got teacher behind. Don't tell them that. But you must be curious, because the way to walk away from being taught as an ordinary person, you are curious. You ask questions, right? And when you do this, you will be free from regrets. And you know what? A life that is free from regrets will be the best gift that life could offer you. Now, my fellow Johannans, as a closing to my speech, I would like to talk a little bit about what I understand by the word success. How do you measure success in your life? This will be something that I think some of us here are beginning to think about. It is important that you know from now on that success should never be measured by material achievements. Instead, you must always measure success by purpose. Benchmark your purpose against the highest ethical standard. Measure success by people. How much have you done for people that matters to you? Your family, your school, your community. Remember this. What we do for ourselves die with us. What we do for the others and the world remains and is immortal. Measure success by legacy. The world that we live in today doesn't really belong to us. We are just the caretakers of the future generations, and therefore always live for the greater good. A candle loses nothing by lighting up another candle. Mr. Phua Sing Thiong, whom was so stern when I first met him, and he subsequently became one of the most important role models in my life. And I'm equally grateful for many others that have made an impact in my life. Mr. K. Kanapati, the school gardener, the school fix-it-all, the school technician, the guy that fixed all the electricity. Mr. Ganapati has been with the school since the 1960s. He passed away 5 years ago. And he took good care of the school, and he took good care of us in the borders quarters. Puan Zavira, my Form 3 school teacher, not from St. John's, from my Raja Abdullah school. Puan Umi Kauson, my history teacher. Mr. Chan Chin Yen, Mr. David Fernandez, Mr. Winston Fernandez, Brother Lawrence, Brother Kasian Papu, Miss Chia, Mrs. Kang Beng Ho, Raja Mahani that has passed away, Puan Sutina, and Mr. Danny Dawes, and so many of these teachers' names that I can still remember by heart today. As a Johannyan, you must always remember to be grateful for teachers, for people that have made an impact in your life. I'm proud to be a Johannyan for the past 33 years, and I always will be a grateful one. Just to show you how big deal it is to be a Johannyan. Even when my grandfather, when he was alive, during his 80th birthday, he would wear a Johannyan tie to take a photo. And I'm still wearing a Johannyan tie. Now, today, the spirits of Johannyan lives on. Last week, I was at Pantai Hill at the hawker store, and I saw this. And I saw the school crest on a hawker store selling chi chong fan. And I asked the lady, hey, how come you have this badge here? Then she was like chopping her chi chong fan. Oh, no, my husband studied in St. John's and he still feel very proud and he want to put there so you want chili or not? There is a lot of pride for becoming a Johannyan. Dignity matters. Hargailah harga diri anda. You know, the chairman of our PGA today, boys and girls, this building next door, we as a students, we raised millions of funds to build this building. Students, kita buat walkathon, jokathon, apa macam ton those days, and then your pengetua, your chairman of your PGA club tells me that students today can't even raise money to help build the school. I feel sad. The spirits of Johannyan, you know, if you feel that when you go back to that walkathon, jokathon card, you think it's not your bloody responsibility, you come back with an empty card. No, the school is not asking you for money. You know what's the meaning of being entrepreneur? The first time I met Dr. Mahathir, when he was the last Prime Minister, 33 years ago, we Johanian, we grouped together, we had a horror house. We had Minggu Perusahaan. So we sold things in Changkat Pavilion, and the Prime Minister was there shaking my hand, asking me how did we make this and make that. So when you have a jokathon, when you have a walkathon, that's a way for you to practice your entrepreneur spirit. Go wash a car of your neighbor, go sell kacang putih, go do something, come back to the school to contribute that 20 ringgit, because that's your hard work, and that's what becoming a Johanian is all about. Boys and girls, while her loyal sons are marching onwards to victory, and we shall never forget her name, Fide Laboli. Thank you very much for the morning.